Welcome, political insiders. Welcome to our daily update on what's going on in South Africa. And thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button. It really does help us grow the channel. So, what's the big news? The first bit of big news is something that we've been waiting for 18 months. And that is that the Government of National Unity actually got together this past weekend. They went on a retreat, 2 days, they were all sitting there, chummy, talking to one another. And I actually think that this is significant. I really do. I think that what we've got with the Government of National Unity is, it was a relationship. We've referenced Mandy Wiener's book, The Deal, many times, where she spoke about and refreshed our memory as to how fraught the whole discussion was to get to the Government of National Unity. And we ended up with a arrangement that really didn't suit anybody. You had the ANC still not prepared to give over power. You had the DA not sure whether they were in a marriage, a partnership, or just in opposition with a few ministers. I think they all need each other. This weekend they got together and hopefully they thrashed it out. And let's be reasonable here. We need the country to work, and I think that the best chance of this is a Government of National Unity where everybody cooperates a lot more than what they do. I don't think it's helpful to have people in the Government of National Unity not being listened to or being forced to behave like an opposition or saying this is an important issue and then it doesn't get debated or discussed. I think everybody's guilty, and maybe sit around the braai and watching of the World Cup final together might just get some people cooperating. And maybe this could be the start of something quite interesting. And we'll go into this in greater detail later on in the week. But I certainly think that you can link this to some setbacks for all the parties. I think they realize that, if the Government of National Unity doesn't work, all of the parties, especially the two big ones in that coalition, are going to get hurt. So perhaps they need each other a lot more than what they think they're doing. And I think that it's something for us to keep an eye on because, the country sure as hell needs some development. Right, let's turn our attention back to the commissions. We heard in the Madonsela Commission, which I must say is struggling to, I know we had some great testimony from police witnesses last week. A little bit more juice was squeezed out of that very dry lemon. And we heard from yet another Hawks member who tried to explain that the Hawks interference, where it seemed like the Hawks were doing everything possible to get the arrest of Katlego Molefe stopped, was just a misunderstanding. We thought that it was something else, but it wasn't. And the fact that we were there for an hour and wouldn't leave people alone and had a helicopter buzzing overhead was purely a mistake. They're going to stick to that story, and that's the way it's going to go. But what was quite telling was that the whole investigation, the whole arrival of this team of Hawks police there, very aggressively trying to stop the arrest of Katlego Molefe, was brought on by a phone call by apparently somebody who is related to Molefe called Mtetwa. Goodness gracious, we only seem to have about 5 or 6 surnames we can draw on, but Mtetwa, not to be confused with our former police minister, our fallen idol, Nathi Mtetwa, apparently no relation. But apparently this was a relative of Molefe who called somebody in the Hawks to say, hey, come quickly, somebody's impersonating the police here. The logical question is, why does this Mtetwa, who we don't know who he is, have the number of the head of the Hawks? But that's a separate issue. Maybe I'm just sort of overthinking this thing, and perhaps there's a good reason for criminal gangs having the head of the Hawks phone number so that they can get the police to come and interfere with an arrest. Either way, the Hawks come out of this looking really, really badly. And if you think it's been bad for our mate Shadrach Sabia, just on a side note, at the weekend, just when you think that this this couldn't get more farcical. Out pops that wonderful human being, Pastor Shepherd Bushiri, the man who's stolen money. He's being wanted for questioning with regards to improper sexual behavior. He seems to have run a Ponzi scheme. He just seems to be an all-round good guy and ordained by somebody, probably himself. Chased out of the country, or police wanted to arrest him. He escaped the country. It seemed like he had help in escaping the country. In Malawi, they said they're going to send him back, but then they didn't want to send him back. It's a mess. And then at Easter time, of course, Floyd Shivambu has to go and visit Shepherd Bushiri if ever you needed proof of just what high standing this man has. Well, he suddenly pops up to put out a video to say that Shadrach Sibiya was extorting money from him to make his case disappear. Well, I think by now, it's only me and maybe 3 other people in the country who Shadrach Sibiya hasn't tried to extort money out of. He seems to be the most effective of all the criminal syndicates, and boy, has he got a few cases to answer. So many people have alleged that he was, in league with criminals. Just remember, this was a guy who was fired from the police for corruption, then hired back at a higher level. You can't make this up, only in South Africa. But anyway, Shepherd Bushiri put out this sort of deranged, detached video over the weekend and then pulled it down almost immediately. But yeah, who knows what's going on. It sounds like they all deserve each other, and it sounds like they can go and sort this out in a nice prison cell where they can all speak to each other about who is actually the bad guy. The Auditor-General reported back on the conditions of the South African Police Service, and it is pretty dire. How people keep their jobs, God alone knows. We got a police commissioner, Fanny Masemola, who didn't hold the line when the Minister of Police was going over his head to disband this political killings task team, which is the purview of the police commissioner to do this. He accepted the decision. And now the Auditor-General has said that the police service has got irregular expenditure of 3.2 billion rand. I don't know. And in the last year, they said they did very well. They only lost 572 firearms, lost or stolen. This apparently is an improvement of something like 20% on the previous year. Now, these are the cops. They meant to stop other people from losing stuff. Their stuff's meant to be beyond reproach. But they lose money, they lose firearms. It's a mess. It really, really is a mess. But never fear, Paul Mashatile, our deputy president, says, don't worry, there's going to be a big shake-up in the police after the commissions. And they're going to clean it out. Clean it up. It's going to be a restructure. He says, listen to this one, at the political level, we are fine. In other words, it's not the fact that we've got a whole lot of police ministers who always seem to be, one's diving out of windows, one's sleeping at criminals' houses, the next one's suspended. So that, according to Deputy President Paul Mashatile, is at the political level, everything being fine with policing in South Africa. Well, if that's fine, I've got a bridge to sell you. But anyway, Paul Mashatile carried on. He said that Feroz Kachalia is going to start a multi-agency anti-gang plan in the Western Cape. Of course, they're always going to go and do stuff in the Western Cape because that's the province that they don't run. The real question is, 2 things. Will they be able to stop these crime syndicates? How far do they extend? Will the police ever do proper police work? And then what do you do about the Hawks? The Hawks were meant to be this great thing that replaced the Scorpions, and they were meant to be our crime-fighting body, our FBI, as it were. The people that really kept us safe from organized crime. Well, it turns out they're colluding with organized crime. And I don't see how the Hawks can survive. I think they've got to shut it down. You either have a proper body like we had with the Scorpions that was effective, or we just have policemen, Constable Abel that does his job. This hawk seems to be a criminal, one of the criminal syndicates. It seems like if there's 5 of them and we only know of 2 or 3 of them, perhaps the Hawks is one of those criminal syndicates. Right? In Parliament, in that hearing, Musi Maimane, the leader of Build One South Africa, said that 15,000 of your police officers were found to be involved in misconduct. Not just like, stole a few pens and pencils from the stationery cabinet. Rape, murder, serious crimes, right? And less than 750 of those 15,000 were prosecuted. That's less than a 5% success rate. And then, if it wasn't bad enough, my word, how some people will absolutely destroy their own legacy. Tuli Madonsela, do you remember we used to love Tuli Madonsela? She was the bulwark, the person that fought against the criminal element, says there should be amnesty, strategic amnesty for all that's going on in the police. We love amnesties in South Africa. We hate sending people to jail. I think it's time that we stop with the nonsense, stop with the amnesties and hold people to account. The laws have been on the books for over 30 years. This is not new. The police are there to do their work. Let them do their work, and if they break the law, let them go to jail. I think Tuli Madonsela, please stick your strategic amnesty. Please retire. Go on holiday with Thabo Mbeki so that you can both shut up. Because really, strategic amnesty, I don't think the country has the will, the mood, or needs another strategic amnesty. I think you get where I stand on Tuli Madonsela's idea of giving strategic amnesty to dirty cops. I think it's a very bad idea, and it's about time somebody is held responsible. Yeah, if ever there's a confusing person in South African politics, it's got to be the poison dwarf Fikile Mbalula. Because now it emerges that he visited the White House earlier in the year, and he had a meeting. Don't know who he had the meeting with. He's all very secretive about it. It never came out. To be fair to him, he doesn't have to announce anything because he's not a politician. He's not paid by the state. He's not paid by our tax money. He's an employee of the ANC. And so, there's a point of difference, for example, to, say, Andrew Whitfield, who was a sitting deputy minister and needed political approval. Mbalula is not employed by the state, and he went off to go and speak to people in the White House. And they said to him, abandon black economic empowerment. So being the great revolutionary, who I don't think ever fought a bar fight in his life, never mind a war, he said to them, you are asking us to close up shop. You are saying that we must kill redress. You are saying that we must cede power to the Democratic Alliance. My God, grow up. These are people looking at the country and saying, this is killing your economy. He comes out with a whole lot of political rhetoric. No wonder the US slapped tariffs on us after that. And, more to come. And no wonder our economy is not growing. I can't wait. And I hope that the shake-up that is going to be caused by the commissions and other things lead to a massive maturing of our politicians, that we don't fight the last war, we fight the next war, which is to get our economy on a firm footing, to get people employed, to give our population dignity, rather than to give a few cadres, shareholding in companies they've never worked to earn. That would really be great. If we stop having the BEE premium of 25% on purchases with the government, with government purchases, this is the only way the country is going to thrive. And if only people like Fikile Mbalula could stop their rhetoric for 1 second and act in the best interest of the country, it would sure help. Well, that's all from the Political Insider today. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back with more news tomorrow. Thank you so much.